Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, Whiteboard Machine Learning. So this is the second part of your KNN implementations. In the first part, we did some visualization after reading our data. Now what I will do, I'll further go and I'll say that I want to detect any outliers in my dataset or not. So I want to detect outliers in my features, nothing but your X variables. Okay, for that what I do, I simply use SNS dot box plot. Box plot is one of the approach where you can actually identify the outliers in your dataset. So there are a couple of other methods like the z-score approach, z-robust approach, and then subsequently we also have some of the machine learning approaches where you can actually identify the outliers in your dataset. Now what I do, I simply use this box plot and I'll say df of, I'll call that particular column here. Okay, where is that column? I just simply use that gene1. Okay, and I'll keep it here. Okay, and then I'll try to plot it. Right, you can see the box plot here. Box plot is right at the middle, and you can see the whiskers to the right and the left, and we don't see any values below this left whisker, and don't see any values above this right whiskers. It means that there are no outliers in the column gene1. Right, this is typically called as the univariate analysis, and I'll copy the same code and then I'll repeat the same thing for gene2 also. Let us check whether we have any outliers in my second column, which is nothing but gene2. Okay, when I observe this gene2 here, I don't see any outliers even in the gene2. It is right at the middle, and you don't see any values below this left whisker and then the values above this right whisker. Now I can confirm that there are no outliers in my two columns. I further go and I'll take the x and y now. It is time to take your x and y because before you start considering your algorithm, you'll have to consider your x and y. So for that, I'll simply split my data. Okay, so what I do, I take x is equal to df dot ilog of colon comma colon minus 1. It means that I'm considering all the rows and then except the last column. The two columns, the first two columns are basically taken, which is gene1 and gene2, right? And then I'll say y is equal to df dot ilog of colon comma minus 1. So once I just execute this one, I think you should be able to see the gene1 and gene2 in x, and also in the y you can see the target column, which is nothing but the cancer present or not, right? So okay, your x and y are ready. You can see that there are 3000 rows and 2 columns, and then there are 3000 records in this particular y, right? So I'll further go. We know that in machine learning we try to keep 80% of your data as a training data and 20% as a test data. For that, what I will do, I simply consider from sklearn. Okay, from sklearn dot from the family of model selection. Okay, so I'll import train test split. Okay, so train test split, you'll have to keep 80% training set and then 20% test set. So it is not always to say that you'll have to keep 80% 20%, and you can also vary this. That is also possible, right? Now what I do, I simply say that train test split. I'll say shift tab in this case, and then I drop it down and I consider the code which we already have in the docstring, which is nothing but um, xtrain, xtest, ytrain, ytest here. Okay, so I'll simply close this and I'll remove this. We have xtrain, xtest, ytrain, ytest. Okay, so there is a function here which basically taking parameters like x, y, and then test size is 33%, and random state is equal to 42. Random state, they are considering by default it is 42. You can certainly change the random state. Basically, random state are used to shuffle the records in your data set, nothing but shuffling the samples in your data set, right? So just a fancy number, a pseudo random number, which basically shuffles your samples within your data set. All right, now since I've taken small x here, I'll just change it to small x in this case. Okay, I'll keep it small x. Now by default they have given 33% of the test size, remaining is basically taken as training size. I simply change that to 20% here. So I'll keep 20% data as a test data, nothing but the unseen data, and random state, let us keep that as it is. Okay, but now for every random state you'll get a different shuffling. Okay, if you want to get the same random ness or the same kind of shuffling after executing this particular statement multiple times, I keep random state is equal to some value. If you do not set this random state is equal to some value, every time new shuffling happens and your results might get varied. It means that your accuracy of your model will definitely vary, because when you keep on shuffling the samples, you see different samples in different training set and the test set. If that happens, even the samples or observations within the trained set and the test set will have an influence on my model's predictions. That's why what I do, I simply set random state is equal to some value. Let's imagine that I'll set it to 100 now. Okay, so I'll keep this 100 now, and then I go further and I'll check the shape of your X-ray. It is nothing but 2400 records and the 2 columns. And when I check your X test, okay, X test dot shape, you know that shape will give us the size of your data, right? It is nothing but 600 records into 2 columns, right? So that is your X train and the X test. Now further I go, I'll say that keeping this X train and X test, I simply use my k nearest neighbor algorithm. Okay, let us try to import knn of. Okay, I simply say that from sklearn dot neighbor from the family of neighbors, and I import k nearest neighbors. Okay, so I'll do something like this. Once you have imported the algorithm, it is important to actually initialize your k nearest neighbor algorithm. Let's say that k neighbors classifier. Okay, I don't set any parameters here. There are so many parameters you can see in this one. Okay, I'll keep default parameters in this case. Now you can see that the important thing is n neighbors. Basically, by default, the number of neighbors taken by this particular implementation is 5. You can go ahead and also change the number of neighbors. That is also possible, right? So n jobs and n neighbors, you simply say it like probably 10 or 15, whatever you consider. But remember guys, there are some methods which will actually give us the optimal number of neighbors, but we're going to explore that in the subsequent lectures. But now I'll keep this as it is, nothing but the default settings here. Now once I have this, what I do, I'll say try to execute this particular cell, and then I'll use this k model. Let's say that k model dot fit. Okay, we know that there is a fit function here. I use the fit function. To the fit function, I'll pass nothing but you're training your algorithm. Okay, I'll pass this x train, y train. You'll have to pass your x train and y train. That is basically the training set what we have. Okay, so once I pass this x train, y train, you're going to train your model. Once the model has been trained, it is time to test your model. Let's say that test model coming down. Let's say that k model dot, you will have to predict on the testing data you have. Okay, remaining 20%. Remaining 20% is taken as what? The unseen data. Okay, so simply type in, you will get for 600 unseen records, you are getting this outcome. Now what I do, I'll go ahead and I'll try to save this in a particular variable called predictions. Okay, I simply say predictions is equal to k model dot predict of x test. Okay, now all the predictions are stored in this predictions variable. Now you're done with the predictions and you're storing all the predictions in your predictions variable. Once you're done with that, I think we need to evaluate your model. That is basically the final step of your model. Okay, I'll try to say evaluate model. For that, what I do, I simply say that from sklearn, there are a couple of metrics that we need to import, because this is typically the classification problem. From the family of metrics, sklearn metrics, I'll try to import some of the metrics like let's say I want to import the accuracy score and then precisions, right? Precisions, excuse me, precision score, and then a recall score, right? And the combination of precisions and recall basically it is F1 score, right? You can also get the classification report. Classification report is one of the metric that you can use where you get the report, the complete report about the precisions, recall, and the accuracy, right? And then the one important thing is the confusion matrix. You can also import the confusion matrix here, guys, right? So I simply say that uh, confusion matrix, confusion. Okay, so you will get a confusion matrix, something like this. Okay, so once you've imported all the necessary metrics, then we'll go ahead and say that what is the accuracy of your model. Okay, when you use this particular functions, you'll have to see what you need to pass. You can see here, guys, you'll have to pass this y true and the y predict. For that, I'll simply say y true is basically equal to y test, comma, and then y predict is basically equal to predictions. Okay, once I check the accuracy, I'm getting a really good accuracy, which is about 93.6% in this case. So similarly, what you can do, you can also check with the precisions and the recall. All right, so I simply place them in the print function. All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll say that print of I'll say the precisions for now. Okay, precisions y true is equal to y test, comma, y predict is equal to predictions in this case. Okay, so once you do this, the precision is basically 95.5%. I'll copy this one, and again I'll check the recall score, right? So recall. Okay, when I do this, so I'll be getting 91.7. If you want to check F1 score, F1 score is basically the combinations of recall and the precisions. If I simply say that F1 score of y true is equal to y test, comma, y predict is equal to predictions in this case, right? So you'll be able to see the 93.6% for the F1 score. Okay, so I'll add one more column above this, and I want to check how basically my confusion matrix looks like, because that is a important part, right? So I simply say that confusion matrix, right? To this confusion matrix, you'll have to pass again the same thing, which is y true, which is y test, comma, y predict is equal to the predictions that you've made. Once you do this, you'll get the confusion matrix something like this. To better understand this confusion matrix, probably you can go with the heat map. But for now, I'll simply use this crosstab functions from the pandas, and I'll say y test, comma, sorry, the predictions. When I do this, okay, you'll get a better picture of this confusion matrix. You can see that 0, nothing but actual 1, exactly classified as 0, it is 283. 0 classified as 1, it is 13. Okay, it means that there are 13 misclassification, and 1 classified as 0, it is 25, and then 1 classified as 1, it is 279. Okay, so it means that you can see the misclassifications here. 0 classified as 1, and then 1 classified as 0. So that is going to be the misclassifications rate, right? So we call it as a false positives and false negatives, right? So that is basically what we see when we try to go with the crosstab, just like your confusion matrix, which is giving us a better view in this case, right? Okay, that's it for this particular tutorial, guys. Now what we will do going further, we also see how basically we can consider this optimal number of k, right? Thanks for watching this video, right? If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, guys.